We all love throwing a few jabs at good old Demon Slayer, saying Wisteria Poison this, American breathing that. However, not only do they have more tools at their disposal, like explosives and demons themselves, but once you really start to think about it, you realize some things are not as simple as they appear. Hello comrade, my name is Mahis. Come, get yourself a beverage and sit down with me. We got an arsenal to go over. First and foremost, a disclaimer, minor manga spoiler warning and a rule for this discussion. We're going to be talking about situations where a Slayer has a fighting chance against a demon. Because come on, if your average Kanoa goes up against the moon, only Jesus will save them, and even that's not guaranteed. So, this will be our position moving forward. How viable or beneficial a certain piece of equipment will be in a somewhat fair fight, and is it properly represented within the established story? Here's a list of what to expect. Let's start with the biggest, most pressing one of them all, Wisteria Poison. In simple terms, it's a clusterfuck, because regardless of how you look at it, there is always a caveat that throws a wrench into the entire argument. What concrete knowledge do we have about it? Shinobu created the poison, it works on all demons to a degree, and it has to be sasoried on the spot for each individual opponent. But here's the first inconsistency, for the lack of the better word. Hinatsuru, how does she have a poison that worked on Gyotaro? Is she also a chemist, or was it just Doma who needed a special version? The answer is not clear, because this duo is an upper rank as well, and you'd think they need their own concoction too if this is how Wisteria Poison works. My theory is that the insect Hashira is using a much more advanced formula to actually kill demons, and Kunoichi is employing a general version meant for temporarily disabling them. That would make more sense, given how Shinobu is rocking a special scion made for mixing the poison and the blade that maximizes its delivery, while Tengen's wife's ballista thing focuses on a larger area of effect. Nice, we solved this part of the equation, yet the question still remains. Why is it not given to every single Slayer if there is a version of the poison that can be used by everyone? Well, logistics for one. There just isn't enough production to equip the entire core with it, on account of Shinobu often going on missions, her paranoia of demons developing an immunity, and the whole poison shtick only existing for a few years. Secondly, there is a method of delivery. Kunais and shurikens were historically used to inject a dose of something unpleasant into your adversary, but demons are a little strange in that regard, since one moment their skin gets penetrated by a throwing weapon, and the other it can be barely cut with a sword. Wait, rewind that? What? Who the fuck threw this kunai? Hinatsuru is on Gyotaro's right, Tengen moves in while getting hit from all sides for some reason, and suddenly, there's one landing on Gyotaro's neck from the left. Interesting. Anyway, as a Slayer, I wouldn't bother with a sidearm that might not do any damage, meaning that you will have to modify the primary weapon, likely in the same way as Shinobu's scabbard, since you can't just stop to pour poison over the blade. Maybe do something similar to Saya's sword from Blood Plus and have a poison vial installed into the guard or the handle. Thirdly, we shouldn't forget the user, since they will have to slightly alter their fighting style to incorporate more thrusts, which by themselves are pretty useless against a highly regenerative opponent. Anytime you want to deal some damage to a demon, you have to use a slash so as to decapitate, disarm, or otherwise inhibit their ability to fight. And in order to justify a piercing attack of some kind, it has to come with a significant upside like immobilizing, otherwise you are needlessly endangering yourself by performing a move that's already hard to land due to a smaller targeted area. Taking all this into account, Wisteria Poison is represented surprisingly well within the story. It's a very useful tool that will help in 99% of the encounters, yet because it's a novelty, only one person, the creator, could use it effectively, barely anybody got to try it, and most Slayers, I bet, are likely completely unaware of its existence. Next we have another, somewhat nuanced piece of demon slaying equipment, the Boomstick. Powerful enough to be used against Upper Moon 4 and a very plausible addition to the Slayer's arsenal, given that it takes place in the Taisho period. In case you didn't know, guns not only existed in Japan at that point in time, but were actively manufactured, with the Type 30 Arisaka rifle alone having over 500,000 copies produced between 1897 and 1940 something. That's a lot of guns, so why don't we see more of them used in the show? Honestly, I don't have a definitive answer, since even normal bullets will at least be a nuisance to a demon, as it will take the strongest of the lot to dodge them effectively. I say normal bullets because Genya has special pellets in his cartridges that are made from the same material as a Nichiren sword. They also kill demons if the shot decapitates them, or that's what I was led to believe. Yet there's one significant downside. Good luck trying to find these pellets after the battle is over. Realistically, you won't be able to, which makes this type of weapon very expensive considering how rare the raw materials are. Or are they? That was my main concern when I was wondering why firearms are so scarce among the members of the Corps. And the thing is, the average weight of a katana, which is about 1.35 kilos or 3 units of freedom, is equivalent to 27 shots of 20 gauge 85 grain cartridges. Why them, you ask? I'm not too well informed about shotguns and such, so please do correct me if I say something wrong. But to me, this looks like 9 decently sized pellets fired from a chunky barrel, which is exactly why I picked the largest standard issue cartridge I could find. That's nowhere near as bad as I thought in terms of waste, especially if you look at how many slayers there are and how often they need new swords. Granted, some of them must be reforged, but a good chunk are either lost or unsalvageable, implying that the resources are not as limited as they seem. Hell, even if they are, guns don't need to kill a demon to be effective. Just fire a shotgun in their general direction and let the physics do its job. It's very similar to the Wisteria Poison in this regard, as you are using it to gain a temporary advantage, with the only difference being the skill required to use it. Okay, it's not the only difference, yet you can learn to aim, shoot and reload effectively within a week or something, as opposed to needing years of rigorous training to be able to land a solid strike on a demon. Anybody can use a gun, and if Tanjiro could land a bullseye with a thrown katana, a bullet fired from a rifle, which as I said were common, will definitely hit and do some damage. Although, here's why I think Genya is the only one using it. They simply don't have enough people to have dedicated marksmen, as they would still require a normal slayer to finish the job. Moreover, one gun is great and all, yet it won't be enough to justify having somebody constantly getting in the swordsman's way, because as soon as the surprise factor is gone and the demon is still alive, it will go after the shooter since they will be easier to kill. You can say, well, just have them trained so they can hold their own for a bit. That's fair. But at that point, would you rather train a proper slayer? I'm not sure, as there's a bit of a dilemma. You need a Nichiren shotgun to reliably decapitate a demon. In order to do that, you need to come closer, which puts you at risk of getting killed unless there is an entire squad with rifles covering you or you have the moves to dodge the demon effectively. In the first case, you need people, which the Demon Slayer Corps sorely lacks, and in the second, a newbie will still have to receive the standard training, kinda defeating the purpose of having a gun. Speaking of human resources, our little organization has a few departments that I think are a bit underused. Crows. I talked about them in one of my previous videos, so long story short, they are infinitely more useful than just being a flying GPS with a messaging function. Take their intellect. One of the craziest things they do is investigating deaths of other crows. If a corpse of their kin is spotted, they make special sounds informing everyone around to gather up and see what happened. Now imagine that, but for dead humans. It's a perfect CCTV, as they can cover more ground than any slayer and won't draw suspicion because they're fucking birds. Get your smart talking ones to teach regular crows how to look for signs of demon activity and how to report it for a snack or something. It's not uncommon for corvids to adapt to new environments and change habits, so even a nocturnal crow is a possibility, which is a great solution for densely populated areas. If that was the case, Daki with her nightly shenanigans would have been busted a while back and maybe the whole place wouldn't have been blown up. You have to realize that when your business model is mostly reactive, information is everything and foresight can only take you so far. You need informants, a network of some kind that will report all gossip and rumors so that the headquarters can analyze them and send an appropriate response. Where is your intelligence bureau? The Corps has been around for centuries, no way they only have a few hotels around the country. Yes, they have 3 kunoichis, except that it's Tengen who has them and they just happen to tag along into this demon slaying world. No shit, they ended up on the brink of death because they went too deep. Okay, I need to stop. I did like 5 of these in the last minute, it's getting ridiculous. If they had a Frankie in the entertainment district who was just inconspicuously collecting intel, Warabi-hime pattern would have been noticed way sooner, allowing for a much smoother cleanup of the area. Cleanup? Right, we do have someone I can compliment. Kakushi, whose job is to assist slayers in their non-slaying needs, are arguably the most competent branch, and it's not even close. They help everyone to recover from demon attacks, transport people to places, make clothes for the entire company. They truly deserve respect, and I'm glad the show treats them better than Force Division, for example, giving them a no-nonsense attitude and a passive-aggressive professionalism. Since I mentioned closing, why don't we have a few words about that? Cause I'm not sold on their supposed defensive properties and a few other pieces of trivia that don't quite add up. Protection from weak demons' teeth and claws, water and fire resistance, blah blah blah. A snack compartment for Mang's new glider was more useful than this uniform's entire description. There is not a single instance I can think of where the Slayer's clothes did anything but get destroyed. Sure, Murata's ass was kinda saved by it, yet it was a 100% comedic relief moment with no actual traces of realism. Why do you tell me this? So I can make a mental note, oh, they actually do wear some type of armor. Why not show it or ignore it altogether, since there is such a discrepancy between what we see and what we are told? Take the entire premise of the story. Demon Slayers are a secretive group. They're not supported by any legal authority and are breaking many laws just by walking around with weapons. Not that the police can really do anything about it, as for all intents and purposes these are well-trained super soldiers, yet they will certainly get hundreds if not thousands of reports of armed, young, mean-looking people who are snooping around places where something horrible just happened. They attract so much attention, and one of the things that ties them together is their uniform. It doesn't take a room temperature IQ, even in Celsius, to conclude that there is a large militaristic group operating within the country. Forget demons, Japan just suppressed a samurai rebellion a few decades ago that cost them a fortune. No way the government won't look into this and find out exactly what's going on. I'm not talking about whether the authorities should or shouldn't know about the Slayers. I'm saying that the Slayers themselves are doing everything to get noticed when they're supposed to keep a low profile. Now, if before I was able to perform feats of logic and or mental gymnastics to rationalize Demon Slayer's equipment, this coming subject is so absurd it straight up doesn't belong in the story. A wooden fucking robot that must run on pure plot armorium, because what in the name of medieval cyberpunk is this? Let's not even talk about the absolute lunacy that are the inner machinations of this machine and get to the big questions. How could you create something like this and have no records of the process, or a prototype? You mean to tell me whoever manifested this marvel into existence did it on the first try while keeping the entire schematic in their head? Dude, not even Tony Stark is that smart. There must have been other people involved, correspondence with experts, parts, or just materials ordered from somewhere. This ain't Minecraft. You can't make something like this by yourself, let alone centuries ago. I accept that some technology can get lost over time. We had that happen a few times throughout history. Yet consider this. You just made a fully functional, combat-ready, mechanized Demon Slayer. Why wouldn't you make more to use as guardians for strategically important locations or as training dummies like you originally intended to? Every time humanity created some super weapon, like an AK-47 or a nuke, it was replicated immediately regardless of the cost because it meant an advantage over the enemy. And here, these Yoriichi dolls could have easily fought against anything that isn't the moon, reducing the casualties among the Slayers, which would have further increased the core's overall strength through a snowball effect. However, if I, for a second, remember everything we talked about so far, I'd get this interesting thought. Would it really benefit the Slayers as a weapon? Let's assume they made 100 of these and somehow send them out to kill demons. How would they find them? By using my proposed CCTV to guide them, hoping they don't chop some civilians in the process? That's tough. So what if we use them as patrols for the streets? Similar situation. And that's not accounting for regular people completely freaking out, ensuring that the core will be known to the public. It's exactly as I said. These fancy tools are not that simple once you try to make them consistent with the story. Following a total fairy tale that is Yoriichi doll, I want to focus your attention on another, less fantastic one. Breathing. We all know about it, no need to explain how it works. Although, there is one little intricacy many people seem to miss or downplay. Check this out.
力に力で対抗するなら絶対に弱い方が負ける。力の流れを見誤らず正しく受け流せ。防御力なら柔軟な水の呼吸が上なんだ。
Different breathing styles do indeed have various strengths and weaknesses, just like real martial arts. A boxer can definitely knock out a jiu-jitsu practitioner, yet if the latter gets a hold of them, it's over. That's why MMA fighters are the most difficult opponents. They incorporate the best parts of the most prominent styles, making them exceptionally flexible in their ability to fight pretty much anybody. That's what I'd like to see in Demon Slayer, because as much as I want to quote Bruce Lee, demons can be so unpredictable with their blood demon art that a simple mismatch in abilities will result in a one-sided massacre even if a swordsman is pretty competent. You have to draw strength from different sources, and that includes other breathing styles. Take Tanjiro. I have little issue with him using Zenitsu's move since he has seen it done countless times, whether in the field or during training. It's not like he was a firebender who suddenly discovered earthbending. No, it's all the same fundamentals, just in different forms. Look up Seki-sensei trying a longsword for the first time. It only takes him a few swings to figure out some interesting moves, including legit Hima ones. Shocker, a swordsman knows how to use a sword. Still, I can't give too much shit to Demon Slayer for letting its characters stick to their guns. What I will make fun of, on the other hand, is the final selection and their training in general. Again, I've talked about it before, so here's a TLDR. The exam is stupid because it perpetuates all the problems that the core has. The quality of the swordsman is going down, maybe you shouldn't let the good ones die while taking a test. Your forces are spread too thin, consider not killing 90% of students who are attempting said test. Old-timers are giving up teaching, you get the idea. That's the second part of the problem, and the first is the training of the newbies. Why isn't everyone taught a breathing technique? Shortage of instructors? Well, these guys had to come from someone. Ain't no way all of them stumbled upon a sword and an invitation to Mount Fujikasane. Somebody had coached them, and that somebody also killed them by sending them to the final selection without the ability to breathe. Why is there no manual, a scroll with pictures, something that will be given to a prospective swordsman to improve their usefulness in battle? Compare it to scouts training. They got both theory and practice before they're even considered for fighting titans, and here they pretty much tell them, here's a sword, that's how you swing it, aim for the neck. Good luck! I would have cut them some slack if demons were so rare that you couldn't reliably use them for drills. But come on, you have an entire fucking mountain of life training dummies. Give a regular sword to a trainee and accompany them while carrying a real one. That's it! Hack and slash to your heart's content. Demons will just regenerate and your student will get an invaluable experience that will help him not to shit their pants during an actual encounter. A quick side note, I'm aware that not everyone is able to learn breathing techniques. However, that doesn't mean they are useless. Maybe they will learn eventually, or maybe they'll discover something new similar to repetitive action. That's why I recommend having a more practical training regimen in a controlled environment, followed by shadowing an expert slayer similar to Tsuguko. Before we wrap up with my final thoughts, I want to throw some unconventional gadgets into the mix. Remember how Sanemi tested Nezuko with his blood? He did that to make her lose control and bite him, which is a pretty decent strategy for fighting demons if you are prepared for it. What if slayers who are particularly skilled and or prefer a more straightforward approach carried around a vial of Sanemi's blood? Making your opponent sloppy is surely an advantage, so this idea should be thoroughly considered, just like what another Hashira employs: explosives. Granted, Tengen is using a very convoluted technique to create many explosions exactly where he wants, which is not something your average slayer can do. So, how about a grenade? Again, these things existed, and oh boy were they used. Just a decade before the events of the story, Japan was at war with the Russian Empire, where frag grenades had so much impact, Great Britain said to its engineers, "Forget that we ever called grenades an obsolete weapon, go make us more." They are no joke, and even though demons won't die to them, taking a chunk of their body out, as well as potentially blinding, deafening, or disorienting them, will certainly help the Slayer in finishing them off. Yeah, it's not that simple, comrades, it's not that simple. I honestly thought this was going to be me doing my usual "this is garbage, that is unrealistic," yet once I put it into perspective of a fair one-on-one, things I believed to be underused or too good to pass turned out to be rather mediocre and consistent with the story. Conversely, Demon Slayer training and gear they used on the regular started to appear less advantageous and even contradicting the lore. It was Mahis, getting surprised into the microphone. Have a great whatever time of the day you have. Until next time, cheers.